a significant toll. Suffered that torn ACL in 2017 when he was playing great. Then the fractured vertebrae in 2018, concussion in 2019 in the playoffs. This year, Wentz was sacked a league-high 50 times, threw 15 picks, and got benched in favor of Jalen Hurts. So what is next for Wentz? If the Eagles trade him before the third day of the league year, they'd still be on the hook for almost $34 million. Yesterday, here's what Shefty had to say about his expectations.
Wants to leave the franchise. That's why the trade still is in play. This is all real, and this is made up. And just because he would like to be moved doesn't mean he will be. If I had to guess, I would guess he is traded. That'd be my guess, okay, at some point this offseason. But again, they're not just going to trade him. They're not looking to get rid of him. They're not.
Okay, but when Shefty says things like, if I had to guess, I would guess he'll be traded, the world just stops, and for understandable reasons. And we all know Shefty well enough to know he doesn't just say those things haphazardly. So, Dan Graziano, what can you tell us about the insight? Because this seems contrary to the moves they've made so far this offseason.
It does, right. One of the main reasons Doug Peterson is no longer the Eagles head coach is because he and the organization had a different view on what to do with Wentz going forward. One of the reasons Nick Sirianni is the Eagles head coach is because they view him as a guy, because he worked for Frank Reich, who could potentially fix Carson Wentz. The Eagles do not want to move on from Wentz. They want to get him back playing well and have him be their franchise quarterback. So what Adam is saying is that Wentz, we have seen nothing to dispute Chris Mortensen's reporting from a few weeks ago that said Wentz wants out. And as long as he wants out, the trade is still possible. Does he pull what Deshaun Watson is doing in Houston and try and force the team's hand? But you mentioned, Greeny, almost $34 million in dead money against their cap if they trade him this spring. That's a lot more. Jared Goff is costing the Rams $22 million in dead money this year, one of the highest figures ever. So it's a lot more complicated and difficult for the Eagles to move Wentz, even than it was for the Rams to move Goff. And I think that's important for people to remember as we go forward here.
So many people, myself included, sort of perceived what's happened there as Wentz winning a power struggle with Doug Peterson. That's why he's still there. So the notion of trading him seems crazy. Booger, you were shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
Well, Greeny, because I don't think he's going to get traded. Listen, down in Houston, we have a quarterback that's trying to get everything he wants, and the organization doesn't seem to want to give it. In Philadelphia, they're trying to give Carson Wentz everything he wants. They're bringing in a coach from Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni that basically says, hey, go in and fix Carson Wentz. Jalen Hurts probably earned the right to be the starter going into the season, but I guarantee you he's not going to be. At the very, very worst, it's going to be a quarterback competition. So what does Carson Wentz want? We're giving you everything you want in this organization, but you still want out? I think other teams around the league would probably look at him and say, well, what exactly are you looking for? You have a tailor-made situation in Philly. You have a head coach that comes from a tree with Frank Reich that you were successful under. What are you looking for? So I honestly do not think he's going to get traded. I think Jeffrey Lurie and that organization did everything they can to acquiesce to him. We brought in a coach that fits you. I just don't think. I love Shefty, but I just don't think Carson Wentz is going anywhere. And it's going to be a quarterback competition between Wentz and Jalen Hurts going into the season, and may the best man win.
Well, to be clear, I think what Shefty is saying is Wentz may still try to force this, that nothing that has happened has changed Wentz's view on the thing. We all get the Eagles don't want to do it, Lewis. So where does it go from here?
Yeah, look, I right now I just don't understand where Carson feels as though his bargaining power really is coming from. Because, look, if he were to sit there and assess his own performance value relative to his cost, what acquiring team right now is going to be beating down the door of the Philadelphia Eagles to get him? Because given all the things that he struggled with this past year, and I'm a defender of Carson Wentz, I still believe that the young man has a great career ahead of him, provided he gets his act together. I mean, if you're Carson Wentz and you're evaluating your own performance, let's see, I didn't play very well. I have this injury-prone type of label that's hanging over my head. I'm sitting here and I'm being perceived as someone who didn't react very well to a young quarterback from Oklahoma being brought in here, and Jalen Hurts, who then took my job, and I'm kind of like being perceived as being a guy who's a pouter, who's kind of stomping his feet and saying, you know what, I didn't like the fact that I had to sit on the bench, and now you're talking about, maybe, sending me out of here, and maybe I just want out of here, and I don't like how the fans treat me, on and on and on. Well, if I'm another football team, I'm going, what do I want to deal with that for and take on that contract? So not only may you not have a buyer, but the Eagles may be sitting there going, look, we're not taking on all this dead money for this. We're going to try and fix this, and that's what we've tried to do. So what does that all equal to me? Carson being in Philadelphia. But as Shefty has said, and as I know very well from experience, anything can happen in this league, but I would be shocked if he's moved.
It is remarkable. We ran through all the injuries that Wentz has had. If the one thing that winds up getting him out of town is a case of hurt feelings, that would really be something. But that feels like where it might be going. At least that's what I think Shefty is suggesting. Then there's this. As we work our way towards Super Bowl 55, Aaron Rodgers continues to find himself a spectator, again falling one game short, this for the second straight season. What does the future hold now with Jordan Love waiting in the wings? Well, Brett Favre is a guy who's been there before. He knows, and here's what he expects.
Somewhat similar to mine and Aaron's situation. Aaron is a tremendous player and has been for that organization a long time. But at some point, if he continues to play, you have to figure out, what do you do with the guy that you think will replace him? Do you give him a blockbuster deal without him really even proving that he's worth it? Or do you trade him and do whatever and then run the risk of an aging quarterback falling apart at some point the next season? I don't see any decline in Aaron's game, but we're not getting any younger.
So I listened to that, and I'm trying to figure out Dominique, what do we take away from that?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous that they might try to trade Jordan Love, because Jordan Love probably has no value at this point. No one's seen him play, and as soon as they announce that Jordan Love might be on a trading block, people assume that it's because he's not good, not because they're trying to build around Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, I think Brett Favre didn't say anything there that was untrue. You're right. At some point, Aaron Rodgers is going to be old, and at some point his play is going to fall off the cliff. They can choose to turn to Jordan Love a season too early or a season too late. That's the choice that they're going to have to make. But I think that trading him right now, they get nothing. Then they wasted kind of a first-round pick, because they're certainly not going to get a first-round pick back.
Well, that's remarkable if you think about it. Last year, to your point, we've seen absolutely nothing from Jordan Love since he was a first-round pick last year. So it's sort of like that thing where you drive a car off a lot and it immediately loses all of its value, even though it's only gone 1 mile. Booger, what do you think?
You know, I think Brett Favre is making the rounds during Super Bowl week, and he's kind of talking too much, Greeny. Understand this. I'm old enough to remember a year ago when Jordan Love was drafted, everybody said, man, Aaron Rodgers is going out of town, and he was coming off a quote-unquote down year where he threw for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 4 picks. I'm like, when did that get you ran out of town? And now fast forward, Greeny, a year later, he's the MVP, and Brett Favre is basically saying, well, at some point, you got to replace him. Well, guess what, Brent? That point ain't anytime soon. He's about to win the MVP. And regardless of what they do with Jordan Love, really doesn't matter, Greeny. It's the toughest position in sports to find, which is a quarterback. And they have, at the very worst, the second best quarterback in the league, behind Patrick Mahomes. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. They're going to acquiesce to whatever he wants, whether it's a new contract, whether it's some more money or whatever. You are not concerned. And I think Matt LaFleur said it. He is going to be our quarterback. So Brett Favre, I get it. It's Super Bowl week. We're making the rounds. He's saying the obvious. At some point, we got to move on. But you know what that point is? That point ain't now, Greeny, and it ain't anytime soon.
Dan Graziano, you hearing anything out of there?
You know, no, I checked in with Packers people yesterday. They're pretty focused right now on hiring a new defensive coordinator. They've been doing those interviews this week, so this is an issue that isn't front and center this week. If they do something with Aaron Rodgers' contract, either to give them some cap relief or, as some have suggested, to maybe guarantee some future money and broadcast some security to him, then that will be before the start of the league year on March 17th. But it probably isn't going to be this week while they have another item going on. But look, I mean, to Booger's point, Brett's not saying anything that reveals any kind of insight into how the Packers work. He's just sort of telling you what you already knew about the situation. It'd be like if we came on to break down the Super Bowl and we said the Buccaneers are going to use 11 players on offense and the Chiefs are going to use 11 players on defense, and if someone gets into the colored rectangular part of the field, they will get 6 points. That's pretty much the equivalent of what we're hearing from Brett here. So he doesn't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers doesn't know what's going to happen. But the Packers draft Jordan Love because they know they need stability at the quarterback position long term. I don't think they're at a point right now where they're willing to give up on that plan.
Maybe we can sum it up by saying how they define long term is what ultimately creates the answer to this question. We have a lot more answers as we continue. Just getting started on Get Up Today. Coming up, the numbers for Patrick Mahomes. They're obscene. But has he already accomplished enough to be a Hall of Famer if he never plays another game after